Viewer discretion is advised.
How do you gauge the Blue Jackets? Pick a year. That's all you have to do. Throw a dart on a billboard with a bunch of seasons on it and you will find misery. Columbus doesn't play hockey. They simply chuck a bunch of things on the ice and hope that hockey comes out of it. The Jackets have been doomed to a life of circling drains and falling to waste. The NHL's enhancement talent. Put forth an effort to get other teams over, stick to the script and lose. But lose with grace in a bunch of blown third period leads. And do it near perennially. It's been the repeated issue of this franchise. Nothing they do works. Rebuilds, all-in pushes, attempts to contend, it all crumbles to dust. Every great moment and highlight comes with a caveat. An endless yang to a positive yin. Take, for example, their one shining moment in 2019. The tweet heard round the world. A dominating sweep ending the greatest regular season in NHL history. A saving grace. A sign of things to come. Even if the Jackets didn't have enough to overcome the might of Boston in the next round, they finally slayed their demon. They won a playoff series for the first time in franchise history. The only thing that could hurt them was if every single key free agent they had left without a trace. Well, we don't have any words, and we know you don't want to hear them. The same damn things keep popping up with players. Columbus isn't the sexy option. It's a city that lives in the shadow of big brothers on both sides. There's only one religious talisman here, and it's a Buckeye. The Blue Jackets offered Panarin more money than the Rangers, and he still spurned them for the big city life. Josh Anderson only wanted a one-year deal here, which honestly allowed them to dodge a massive bullet that hit Montreal. Same goes for Seth Jones, who requested out for a massive overpayment in Chicago. And this is just continuing the list of defectors from years past. It's agony when you can't build anything sustainable. In this revolving madness, a prayer was thrust into the cosmos. All the Jackets needed was one player to choose them. One player to say, I want to join Columbus. Then they'd finally break out of this hellish carousel. A franchise finally validated with one stroke of a pen.
The initial flurry of moves, none more interesting to me and I think to many across the hockey world, is that of Johnny Gaudreau leaving Calgary for, of all places, Columbus.
The wish was granted. A star player chose Columbus. Johnny Hockey signed with the Jackets, and he took less money here than other teams were offering. Holy shit. The time has come for this team to finally rise from the ashes. And all it took was signing Eric Branson to a 4x4. What can I say? Better narrative than allowing his family to come to more games. Yet even then, for the greatest blessing bestowed on this franchise since being born, it's been a colossal disappointment. The caveat to a highlight. A deep inconsistency that teases Columbus of his talents but offers nothing sustainable. I know there's going to be a guy in the back saying that Gaudreau's more of a playmaker, and you're correct. But to the point of having no goals in October, 8 goals in 55 games? He's been a very hot and cold player in his career, sure, but this is ridiculous. His defensive analytics have fallen off a cliff. The dude suddenly can't finish anything. He's been benched for poor performance in his time here. It only goes to show one thing. The Jackets wish for everything on a regenerating monkey's paw. Don't forget Columbus managed to keep Patrick Laine around as well, yet even that's backfired on them. He's been cursed with injuries. Every chance he has to blossom into a core contributor, the gods strike him down for a fortnight. Either by concussions, other ailments, or checking into the NHL's player assistance program to overcome personal demons. But there is Zach Werenski. He has fulfilled expectations of his mighty contract. Whenever he's on the ice, injuries have battered him down as well. I just don't get one thing. You have massive holes to patch on team defense and you bring in Damon Severson and Ivan Provorov? Two guys not exactly known for their defensive prowess? Columbus's only defensive D-man right now is Goodbranson. You brought those two in, yet have no room at the NHL level for the likes of David Jiricek. You know, the kind of guy the Jackets need to develop? No wonder why he's pissed. He's caught up in a logjam. And at least that's tame in comparison to goaltending. Jonas Korpisalo got shipped off along with Vladislav Gavrikov for more futures at the deadline last year. So the shit show back there has gotten even more unstable. Mainly hoping that Daniil Tarasov can make a save in traffic, and Elvis just hasn't been the same since Matis. He needs a change of scenery. For his own sake. It's a team in such disarray that their all-star representative was Boone Jenner. Don't get me wrong, Jenner's a solid player, but he's never eclipsed the 50-point plateau in his career. This is really the best they have to offer? Sad thing is that this miserable season is eons better than last year was. Everyone and their mother hasn't had their legs lobbed off to injury. Look at the lineups they were trotting out in the final games of 2023 and be in awe at how deep they had to reach in the minors for bodies. Yet it ignores what's probably been their biggest issue these past few seasons, and that's coaching. Under John Tortorella, you know what you're getting. He's a great coach if you want to build structure and drill a young team into becoming an effective NHL unit, but like all coaches, his message loses power and effectiveness. While he was one of the best coaches in franchise history, he was past his expiration date with the Jackets. It happens to everyone, don't be too worried, it was time for both parties to move on. Only problem is that Columbus is chosen very poorly after the fact. Promoting his assistant Brad Larson makes perfect sense in theory, maintaining the culture built while being more of a player's coach than Torts. Perhaps too much of a player's coach, to the point where a lot of things were starting to slip through the cracks. It affected the team performance on top of a metric shit pile of injuries, and it was obvious Larson was overmatched in his role. So he gets canned to hell and a new search begins. It was critical they needed to learn from the mistakes of the past. Columbus needs a veteran hand to guide them through this time. They hired Mike Babcock. Excuse me, I just burned some of the lining in my esophagus. So you're telling me that the taste of Brad Larson's passive pushover coaching style was so awful that the answer was to bring in a dinosaur? One that eats its young and kicks them from behind the bench? It wasn't if he was going to be an embarrassing failure, it was when it was gonna happen. Oh boy, kids, here comes the asteroid to kill off the Babcockosaurus Rex! He should be noticing it, but he's too busy looking at the pictures on players' phones. He denied it was for control. Boone Jenner came out and defended him. They said it was to bond with the players and the families they had. It was part of his evolution as a coach, the genesis of a kinder, gentler Babcock. And he overcame this early adversity by turning tail and fleeing the sea. He was in Columbus for 78 days. The dude didn't even make it to training camp. You got the hire wrong, Columbus? No fucking shit! So now they're stuck with an assistant of Brad Larson's whose effectiveness as a coach is still to be determined. I don't care who's in charge or what the culture is in an organization, this is grounds for a deep clean. If the answer to fix the Jackets from the inside was Mike fucking Babcock, you fire everyone. Start swinging the axe around and take out anyone in your path. This doesn't show sound logic, it reeks of desperation and outdated thinking. Speak about the pains to build culture and pride, but what have they really built? A second home for Pittsburghers when the Pens are in town? A purgatory for prospects to serve their mandatory sentence to the motherland? Everything they have tried has blown up in their face. And Jarmo, I get what you tried to do here. He had a Herculean task trying to reanimate this rotting carcass, but Kekalainen couldn't turn water into wine. It only withered and wailed in woe. And that's why he got decapitated by said axe. Like with Torts, it's not really you, man, it was just time. So why's John Davidson still here? Don't give me the whole loyalty thing. He jumped ship to a better opportunity the first chance he got, like many before him. Only difference was that he failed with the Rangers and had to come crawling back on his hands and knees while Columbus gave the Thanos speech. Unfortunately for the Blue Jackets, it seems like they can live with their own failure. They've been living in it for decades. My question is how much longer are Jackets fans going to tolerate it? They love their team. They put up with a lot of shit from the franchise, but I think they have much greater expectations than being a doormat for everyone else. And it's not just them. Team ownership sitting around pissed and frustrated like anyone else that follows this franchise on a surface level. I don't even hate the Jackets, I just feel bad for them at this point. Nothing goes right. Be it most playoff series, regular season games, and draft lotteries alike, they lose. Whenever they get prospects, they either struggle to develop or fail to meet expectations. If a star player's acquired, they usually want out when the time comes. With the ones that want to be here magically turn to shit. Perennially trying to spark the flame with everything under the sun, yet never getting it to light. Always shooting blanks. That's the Columbus way. What breaks them out of this horrible spell? I don't know. Any effort, spirited or not, will be blown like a third-period lead. The Blue Jackets' hell isn't ineptitude or chaos. It's to simply exist. And that's worse than death itself. You expect a redemption arc so soon? In the words of a wise man, Philly don't do rebounds.